Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, continuing our Warhammer The Old World content series where we're looking at the main rulebook. We're now moving on to model profiles, taking a quick look and seeing what they are. So in terms of a characteristic stat line in Warhammer The Old World, we have movement, obviously how far your units move, weapon skill, how good they are at attacking in melee and defending themselves in melee, ballistic skill, how good they are at ranged attacks, strength, how strong their attacks are, toughness, how tough the actual model is, how many wounds it has before it might get killed. Initiative is basically its reflexes, and a lot of that will come down to, ability to attack before an opponent. Attacks, how many attacks they can make, and then leadership, how vulnerable they are to things like psychology if they get scared, or they might break from a combat. In terms of split profiles, now you get this sometimes where you have potentially a cavalry model, for example. You've got a horse and a rider, and that's now combined into a single profile, but there are two rows, and each row represents that profile. So what the top row would be the rider, the bottom row would be the horse. And where you see dashes, obviously there's no ability in that area. You might see under wounds +1, which basically means it adds 1 to the whole unit. You may not have come across these type of split profiles or the way that the Old World has done it before, so just worth double checking and seeing what they look like. But this is definitely a thing for Warhammer the Old World. And then when it comes down to, sometimes either models come with a characteristic number of 0, or due more likely to hex spells and other effects in the battle, you can have your characteristics reduced. Now, if you have a ballistic skill of 0, you cannot make any ranged attacks at all. If you have a weapon skill of 0, you cannot attack in melee, and you are automatically hit in return when attacked back. Now, normally, you'd think if your wounds are 0, the model's slain. That's an obvious one. But also of note, if for whatever reason your strength or toughness goes to 0, the model is also slain. So something to watch out for there. Now, you can also have things called characteristic tests. Now, unlike a lot of dice rolls in the game where it's 4+, i.e. roll 4 or above, characteristics tests are a little bit different. You roll equal to or less than the characteristic number. So you take someone like Cetra here, maybe he's got a toughness of 5, in which case to pass his toughness test you need to roll 5 or less. However, it's point to note is, regardless of the toughness of the unit, you will always fail on a 6. And you will always pass on a 1. So that's something to bear in mind. And then when it comes to leadership tests, you roll 2d6 as opposed to all the other characteristics where you roll 1d6. So on leadership, you roll 2d6, and again, you need equal to or less than the leadership characteristic to pass the leadership test. Now, you automatically pass when you roll a double 1, and you automatically fail if you roll a double 6, regardless of the unit's leadership. Okay, you've also got on your unit profiles or model profiles, you have troop type. Troop type is a keyword. This can be important certainly for some rules, and we'll get more in depth on that as we move through the rulebook. So keep in mind, troop type is going to be quite important in this game. Base size, the contentious base sizes. We're not going to go into what they are or the issues around them. However, base size is now identified on the unit profile. So every unit now, you can look at its unit card and you can see what base it should be on. Now, outside of a tournament environment, I think it's absolutely okay in a very casual game, particularly those people that have older collections, wanting to play with their mates, wanting to get the models on the board, certainly over the next few months. Just agree with your opponent in advance if the miniature's not on the correct base size. Does it have a slight impact on the game? Yes, actually it does, because of the way the rules are written. Is it going to be critical in a casual game you're playing with your friend at home? No, it's not. Though I do suggest, if you're looking to just turn up and find a pickup game with a complete stranger, it would be better if your miniatures were on the correct base sizes. And there are many ways to do this. I'm not going to go into all the details, but you don't just have to take the base off. You can trim around the bottom and stick on a bigger base. You can make movement trays that represent the base size. Just make sure you've got clear delineation of where those the actual base sizes would be for measuring purposes, because you measure to a unit's base, not to the movement tray. So just keep that in mind. Now, so every unit profile has a unit size. This normally comes with a minimum. So the minimum to make a unit, 5+, 4+, that means you need 4 or more models as a minimum to make the unit. Some units can come with a maximum as well, where it can say the maximum number of models allowed in this unit is 10. So something to be aware of. And then every unit profile will also have special rules. And there are 3 categories of special rules. You've got the universal special rules. These are the special rules that are listed in the main rule book. There's a whole bunch of them. They're generic. They apply across every faction and in the same way. And so you take them from the main rule book. Then you have army special rules. So these are faction specific. So this is, a Bretonian army specific special rule that it will affect a whole number of Bretonian, or maybe even all Bretonian units, for example, or Tomb Kings, for example. And then on top of that, you then have unique special rules. Unique special rules are specific to the unit itself. So it could be Grail Knights, it could be the War Sphinx we see in the picture here, and that would be a special rule that only the War Sphinx has. The other thing you can have is you can have unique characters and equipment. It's important to note that you can only have one of each type in your army list. Therefore, you cannot have 2 Cetras in your army list, but you could have a Cetra and a Nekapf, no problem. Same with magic items. A lot of magic items can be unique, and therefore, I haven't read all the list of magic items, but suppose you have a magic weapon, the Hydra Sword, for example, then you can only have one Hydra Sword item in your army list. And there you go. That was a quick canter through. Like I say, we are going into more detail as we're working our way through the rule book. So I hope you found this quick look useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below, as always. And also great to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments as well on some of the things we've talked about here, and any suggestions or tips you might have, particularly for those people who are either not familiar with tabletop games in general or not familiar with Games Workshop or rank and flank type games. If you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button. It's totally free for you to do. It means a huge amount for me, so thank you for that in advance. I do really appreciate all the support I've been given so far. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you all very, very soon.